Hello everyone, welcome to your next lesson. Today we are looking at deforestation. So to begin with, have a look at this starter. We've got a remember task and an extension. Start with the remember task and move on to the extension. I want you to describe 2 reasons why peat bogs are being destroyed by humans. So this is going back to what you did last week. Once you've done that, have a go at the extension. How does the destruction of peat bogs affect biodiversity in the area? So you're going to need to pause the video here for about 5 minutes, have a go at these 2 questions, and then come back for the answers. Okay, hello, welcome back. So the answers for our remember task. Peat can be burned as fuel to be used by farmers and gardeners to improve the quality of their soil. So you can burn peat and use it as a fuel resource, and you can also use it as like a compost to make soil better for growing flowers and crops in. And how does the destruction of peat bogs affect biodiversity? The destruction of peat bogs reduces the amount of available habitat for species, and some species only live in peat bogs. So we could be losing entire species by destroying our peat bogs. And as we know, a reduction in species is going to be a reduction in biodiversity. Okay, so moving on to deforestation for today. What I would like you to do is I want you to write down this definition. Deforestation is the action of clearing a wide area of trees. So I would pause the video for a minute to write this down. Moving on. So let's start by looking at why forests are destroyed in large areas. So the wood that comes from deforestation can be used for building materials such as construction, in producing buildings, and producing commercial products like furniture. The wood can be used as a fuel for energy. This is known as a biofuel because it's come from a living thing. Then we've got raising livestock. A lot of forest land is cleared to make room for raising, especially cattle. And then we've got growing crops, and this can include things like rice mainly and soya plantations. Okay, so what we're going to do next is a task. So you need to state 3 reasons for large-scale deforestation in tropical areas. Pause the video, spend about 3 to 5 minutes on this. It should be quite straightforward as we have just a second done it. So pause the video, come back in about 5 minutes for your answers. Okay, hello. So you could have any 3 from the following. We've got timber for construction or products, use of wood for fuel, clearing of land for agriculture or farming or cattle rearing or rice fields, etc., any one of those, and growing crops to use as biofuels. So well done if you got full marks on that one. Okay, let's have a look at a little case study. The Amazon rainforest is the biggest deforestation front in the world. It's about twice the size of India. It's a huge area. And about 10% of all the species that live on Earth exist within the Amazon rainforest. And 75% of that 10% are completely unique to the Amazon. The Amazon rainforest produces over 20% of the oxygen for the entire planet. Over half of the global species survive in the Amazon rainforest. We get 80% of our food from the Amazon rainforest. 121 prescription drugs are derived from plants within the rainforest, and 350 different ethnic groups actually live within the rainforest as well. However, since the 1970s, 20% of the rainforest has been lost, mostly to deforestation. You do also have like wildfires and natural disasters that will destroy rainforest, but these are like natural processes. 20% has actually been lost because humans have chopped it down. Some estimates reckon it's going to be about 27% by 2030, and that's only 10 years away now, and that'll be over a quarter of the original forest land we lost. This deforestation is causing a huge loss of species, and scientists estimate that about 137 species are actually going extinct every single day, which is about 50,000 species a year. Now, these species, it seems like a huge number, but a lot of these species are going to be things like plants and invertebrates and even like bacteria. There are billions and billions and billions of species in the world. We could quite easily be losing 137 species a day due to deforestation. The US National Cancer Institute particularly depends on the survival of the Amazon rainforest. At the minute, there are about 3,000 plants that have properties that fight against cancer cells. 70% of them are found in the Amazon rainforest. 25% of the active ingredients in cancer-fighting drugs are actually obtained from organisms found in the forest, and this can be from plants and from invertebrates as well. So our fight against cancer heavily depends on the survival of the rainforest. 70% of plants that have properties that help to fight against cancer are found in the Amazon rainforest, and we're still chopping it down. Okay, let's have a look at this little infographic here. This just shows the magnitude of the deforestation that has happened since 1950. If you look at the top left, that is the original land coverage of the Amazon rainforest in 1950. And you can just see how over the years it's become more and more reduced, and it's now only a fraction of what actually survived there. So this reduction in forest land is going to reduce available habitats for plants and animals, and that is going to cause them to become extinct because they've got nowhere to live, and that is going to reduce biodiversity in the Amazon rainforest. And remember, the Amazon rainforest is one of the most biodiverse regions in the entire world, so hundreds of species are going to be suffering because of deforestation. Okay, let's have a look at the effects of deforestation, particularly from logging. So to collect timber from the forests, you have to use very heavy machinery to chop the trees down and then to collect it. This is going to compact the soil, squish it all together and make it solid, and that makes it more susceptible to erosion. And soil that is susceptible to erosion cannot hold plants. Like, the roots break it apart very easily, and it's not strong enough to support plant life, especially plants as big and heavy as trees. The silt then washes into the rivers, and that causes water pollution. And the tracks open paths up to new settlers who come into the rainforest to live and survive, and then they themselves remove trees for their own resources. Looking at agriculture now. To clear land for agriculture, a technique is often used called slash and burn, and this is when the plants are just chopped down and burnt where they lie. So this affects the fertility of the soil, and only farmers who can afford fertilizers to put nutrients back into the soil are able to use that soil. Farmers who come from developing lands, who are poorer and they can't afford fertilizers, they have to move on to new land. And by doing that, they're going to need to clear more trees to use that land. So that just increases deforestation. So remember, both of these are reducing biodiversity because they're making the land uninhabitable for plants and animals. And those animals and plants are going to die off and cause a reduction in biodiversity in the Amazon rainforest. Okay, so this is just a bullet point list. I would like you to write this down, of the effects of deforestation. So we've got loss of habitats for animal and plant species. Less animal and plant species is going to equate to less biodiversity. We're going to have less sources for our medicine and also our food. It's going to increase soil erosion. We're going to reduce the amount of nutrients that are in the soil. It's going to cause desertification and landslides. And this is when the land basically becomes a desert because plants can't survive in it. And then increased global warming because we are chopping down trees that are absorbing all our carbon. When you chop the trees down, the carbon that's stored within the trees is going to be released into the atmosphere, and it's just going to increase the rate of global warming. Now, this animal on the slide here, this rhino, this is called a Sumatran rhino. This is just one example of the hundreds of species that are suffering because of deforestation. It lives in the Amazon rainforest. It is classified as being critically endangered, which is the highest level of endangered an animal can get, apart from being extinct in the wild and then extinct. there are less than 100 of these animals left in the rainforest, and they suffer greatly from deforestation and palm oil plantations, which we're going to look at in a few minutes. Okay, so you have another task to do now. You've got 2 questions. Explain how deforestation affects biodiversity and why it matters. This question is worth 4 marks. You'll want to spend about 4 or 5 minutes on it. Afterwards, you just need to give 3 reasons why deforestation increases the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and this is worth 3 marks. So in total, you want to spend about 8 or 9 minutes on this. Pause the video, come back in about 8 or 9 minutes once you've had a go at the questions, and we'll go through the mark scheme. Okay, welcome back. Okay, so for our first question, how does deforestation affect biodiversity? You get a point for each of the following. So if you said that tropical rainforests contain more biodiversity or they're more biodiverse than other areas, that's 1 whole point. A loss of forests, that's meant to say, means biodiversity and plant life is also going to be lost, as habitats are going to be destroyed and become extinct. So for those 2 points, you get a point each for those. And many species are being destroyed before they can be identified and studied. So animals that we have not even discovered yet are becoming extinct. And so new sources of medicine and food could be lost. So that is why biodiversity, especially in the rainforest, is so important, because it holds a wealth of food and medicine that we can use, and we're destroying it. And then for our second question, why does deforestation increase the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere? So you get a point for saying carbon dioxide is produced by burning trees. Carbon dioxide produced by the decomposition of dead vegetation. And then also less carbon dioxide is going to be removed from the atmosphere by the trees. So if we're chopping down all the trees, there's going to be less trees to absorb our carbon. Okay, give yourself a score. If you got any of it wrong, I would suggest just jotting down the correct answers. And then we're going to move on. We're going to have a look at palm oil plantations. Okay, palm oil. So palm oil is a type of vegetable oil that's derived from palm trees, and it's actually contained within about half of the products you find in a typical supermarket. And these are going to be things including pizzas and donuts. Nutella has got quite a high percentage of palm oil in it. Even things like deodorant and shampoo and toothpaste and lipsticks, they all contain palm oil. This palm oil can also be used in animal feeds. So in massive bags of feed you can buy for livestock like cattle and sheep and goats, etc. And you can also use it as a biofuel. So the reason why palm oil is so popular is because it's odorless and colorless. So it doesn't alter the taste or the appearance of foods that it's in. Estimates suggest that about 40% of deforestation in the Amazon rainforest is because of palm oil plantations. That is a huge percentage to be just for palm oil. The other 60% is going to be things like making way for cattle fields and urbanization, etc. So this guy, this orangutan, his species is particularly under threat because of palm oil plantations. So the forest is destroyed to make way for all these palm trees, and so the orangutans find themselves trying to survive on the palm trees, and they are eating the palm fruits, and then the owners and the workers who maintain the plantations just kill them because they're being a nuisance and they're eating their crop. Other animals that are affected also include pygmy elephants and Sumatran rhinos, as we've just looked at. 80% of orangutan habitat has been lost in the last 20 years, and about 6,000 individuals die every year due to deforestation, mainly due to palm oil plantations. There is, however, quite a new company called the RSPO, which has developed a set of standards that palm oil plantations need to adhere to get this sticker basically put on their products. So if you get this sticker on your product, you know it's come from a sustainable palm oil plantation. These are the standards at which they are assessing palm oil plantations. So they need to be giving fair working conditions to their workers. Local people's lands and their rights need to be protected. So people who live in the area aren't being exploited. They're being paid a decent living wage, and their land isn't going to be encroached on. They are not allowed to be clearing primary forest, and wildlife on the plantations needs to be protected. So they're not killing orangutans for coming onto their plantations and eating their palm fruits. They need to be aware of their greenhouse gas emissions, which increases when you deforest an area, and they need to take steps to minimize those emissions and also to reduce industrial pollution that comes from growing palm oil. Okay, so what can we do? These are just simple little steps that you can do with yourself and your family to help you reduce deforestation in tropical areas. So you can reduce your consumption of single-use products. Only buy products which are sustainably sourced. So you can look for the FSC sticker, which is the Forest Stewardship Council, or the RSPO, which we just looked at, which is the Round Table of Sustainable Palm Oil. You can reduce your consumption of animal products, reduce your use of paper, reduce, reuse, recycle in everything that you use. And you can also raise awareness within your community or family. You can even go and start writing letters to your MP about it. Okay, so next thing we're going to have a look at is your apply and assess tasks. So here are some questions. Biofuel production has caused large-scale deforestation. I need you to explain why large-scale deforestation has been required to produce biofuels. Only 1 mark for that one, so only spend about a minute on it. Next, you need to state 2 other reasons for large-scale deforestation. Now, you're only getting 2 marks, so don't be writing loads and loads for this one. And then suggest and explain 2 harmful effects on the environment caused by the destruction of large areas of trees. And this is worth 4 marks. You want to spend about 4 or 5 minutes on it. So pause the video here. You're going to want to spend about 8, 9, or 10 minutes on these 3 questions, and then come back for the answers. Okay, moving on. Okay, mark scheme. So your first question was to explain why large-scale deforestation is required to produce biofuels, and you get your mark for saying to clear land to grow the crops. It's that straightforward. Next one, state 2 other reasons for large-scale deforestation. We've got to provide land for cattle, or to raise cattle for food, and to provide land for crops, or to provide more food. So you get a point each for those. And then question 4, question 3, which was worth 4 marks, suggest and explain the harmful effects of deforestation. Okay, so you could have any 2 from these. It increases the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So you get a point just for saying it increases carbon dioxide. Because carbon dioxide is released by burning wood and the decomposing of wood by microorganisms. So you get 2 points if you wrote that. It reduces the rate at which carbon dioxide is removed from the atmosphere, or you can say if carbon dioxide removal slows down or it stops, because there are fewer trees taking it up for photosynthesis. It's really important that you put this second point, because a lot of people forget, because there are fewer trees that take it for photosynthesis. That is why carbon dioxide removal from the atmosphere is being reduced. And then it also leads to a reduction in biodiversity in the area because trees and habitats are being destroyed. So tot up all your marks. If you got any of them wrong, make a quick note of the right answer so you know for next time if you see that question again. Okay, and then let's move on to the assess slides. So you've got a picture you need to study, and then you have 3 questions. Your first question worth 2 marks. So you only want to spend about 2 or 3 minutes on each of these questions. Deforestation has decreased the amount of forest cover on the island. Describe the change in the pattern of forest cover on the island. 2 marks. Second question, 2 reasons why the amount of forest has decreased between 1973 and 2010. And then lastly, scientists are concerned about the effects of a decrease in forest cover on ecosystems. You need to give 2 negative effects on the decrease in forest cover on ecosystems. So again, pause the video, spend about 6 to 8 minutes on this, and then come back for the mark scheme. Okay, so the mark scheme, let's have a look through it. So for your first question, forest at the edges of the island has been removed. So you can also have allow centrally the forest remains. An appropriate area on the island is identified. So you need to say where on the map. Let's have a look at it again. Describe the change in pattern. You need to say where on the map it has changed to get your second mark. Then your second question, you could have any two from this list: to provide land for farming or agriculture, provide land for quarrying or for building. You could also have to provide timber, to provide fuel, produce paper, and you could also say allow forest fires. And then our last question, you could have any two from these: decrease biodiversity, loss of habitats, increase carbon dioxide. When it says something in brackets here, you could have that. If you don't have that, it doesn't matter. And global warming. You can also write for this point an effect of global warming. So if you put flooding or a rise in sea level or soil erosion, you get that point as well. Okay, well done. That brings us to the end of our deforestation lesson. Just a last slide here I want you to have a quick look at. This is just if you found this interesting, you want to look at it further. Here are some links you can have a look at. So this is the page for the RSPO, and it has some really good videos about what they do and how they ensure palm oil plantations are sustainable. Got a couple of videos here. This one is a good one. It's a video about the importance of looking after the environment. And then this one, you may have seen it on the telly a couple of years ago. I think it was a Christmas advert about how palm oil plantations are affecting orangutans. And then this one is a really, really interesting video. It shows you a satellite view of deforestation happening over the last, I think it was 50 years. And then down here are some examples of some movies that look at deforestation. You've got Medicine Man, which is quite an older one. These two you've probably heard of. Avatar and the Lorax are really good. And then the Fern Gully is a really, really good one. I would recommend seeing this if you have not watched it. It's very good. Okay, well done. So after you've done this, you've got a quiz and some exam question practice to do. And I will speak to you in the Google Classrooms. So have a good week, and I'll speak to you next time. Bye.